Are you just looking for debate elo? Do you just want to have debate elo? If you want to have debate leader, I will debate you fully. Oh no. If you just want to admit that's for debate elo. I wish it was like the Colon games where I could just transfer over points so they stop bothering me.
You basically transferred the points to me, but it's fine.
I think if you want to debate Elo, Tohno, you should debate Apollo because Indians and Muslims they always.
Oh my god! Don't be racist.
Tohno has Muslim rolls. This guy's clearly
they always
Muslim.
have conflict with each other.
I think he's actually maybe Pakistani.
Wait, oh no, are you just gonna run the contingency argument? I don't care about running fine tuning. I'm just not gonna engage with that.
Fine tuning so tough. Okay.
Wow. What argument do you use then? I'll see. Magically,
you would love for it to be.
Do you have some unique argument that I've never seen in the literature before? Is it like a moral argument?
It's gonna be one of my arguments.
I feel like I'm getting baited into something.
Can you say it fast and then mark it down?
Just write it. Just hold on. Write it in the side chat, man. Just write it, man.
I bet $5 is going to be an argument.
I can kind of hear him smile. I can kind of hear his little hands rubbing together like a mouse.
I bet $5 is going to be.
It might be an ontological argument, or an argument from beauty.
Yeah, beauty or ontological.
Yeah, just check the side chat for the arg.
I was once a fetus, and before that, I was an embryo.
Dude, that foil sick person got kind of like demolished. That was kind of sad.
That lady's a retard, bro.
It was like I was like the amount of suitor. Like this person just did not know anything.
Blood got her philosophy from MySpace.
Probably got her philosophy from MySpace. No, the MySpace debate scene was crazy. You weren't there.
Yeah.
They were like customizing their pages with their syllogisms.
Oh, that's tough. That's actually tough.
RAR means I love you in debate.
Wow.
I
was literally a sperm cell, but when that was around MySpace. You know how I bet it was in it? I bet Jack was in that shit. MySpace.
Where? How old was I when MySpace started? MySpace is still online. That's crazy. 2003. Oh, so I was like a baby when MySpace was founded.
Damn, I didn't even exist.
I was like goo goo gaga.
Gavlar's getting his first job at that time.
Why is it taking so long?
It should be contradiction. Oh no.
You mean Folsom? Even though
he's coming up with a new age argument. A new age argument for sure.
Well, yeah, it's a fault. Oh, actually, no, it's the perpendicular. Oh no.
Is it? Please don't follow me. He might be really good. What if he does this to like gore or something? I like low key have like a fear it's gonna be like gore.
He would probably
why did you come in here to do it? You did have the syllogism ready.
He wanted to make sure that the debate was.
Why didn't you have it ready? Means some fire gore, son.
I confirm Jack, you did used to debate on MySpace.
That's Jack getting straight with the MySpace debate scene was like.
Shut up while I'm talking, right?
Yes.
Oh, I know what he's about to do. Okay.
Oh my lord.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Is he just going to run contingency? It seems like he's just going to run contingency.
No, I know what he's about to do.
Can you tell me, PK, please?
Psychotics, bro. You're actually him, bro. Oh my lord, you got aura, bro.
If he does,
As soon as he said,
does,
I'll wait and see, because if he doesn't do it, then it's, I just want to see how funny
Can't
it is.
lose aura, man. You
But
can't lose the aura.
as soon as he asked, "Do you agree with this definition?" I think I know what he's doing.
there are efficient causes in the world that is producing causes. Nothing can be a efficient cause to
That's what I
itself.
thought he would do.
A first efficient cause, yes, that's what we call as God.
Hold up, is this even a valid argument?
So wait, you just got God as a necessary external explanation as to all contingent beings? We can't have an infinite regress. We can have an infinite regress. And by causes, what do you mean? By causes, what do you mean? Oh yeah. Nothing is brought into existence in my view. Yeah, there's never a time something doesn't exist. Yeah, so I think everything exists necessarily at all times. No, it wouldn't. Why would it lead to modal collapse? No. The proposition, look, a proposition a bachelor is married is false. Okay. And then so some analytically false propositions too. Also maybe some synthetically false propositions. Like for example, the fact that I don't have a hand, that's false. That seems like synthetically false. Okay. But even then, like my distinction between synthetic and analytic, where not the predicates contained in the, like I'm going to give the classical definition, and not the predicates contained in the subject. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So one, I'm committed to a classical understanding quantified meta logic. So I think quantifiers need to know names, and I think for any logical formula, that formula is necessary. Given those two, we get the Barcan formula and the converse of the Barcan formula, and that would imply that no entities are added or subtracted between worlds. So in all worlds, all the objects would be the case. There would be no objects that would fail to exist. That's not relevant here. Like Didicto and de Ray modality doesn't really get you out of necessitism. Yeah, nothing has come into existence. There was never a point where something came into existence. Yeah, there was never a point they came into existence. Like every entity has always existed. So like when you say like an apple doesn't exist, I just say the apple just isn't concretely instantiated. But the apple still exists. So abstract object or maybe your possibilia, like some entity that could have been an apple. Yeah, that object doesn't necessarily exist. It could never fail to exist. The object that instantiates the property of being an apple couldn't have failed to exist.
See.
And it always existed.
So always. So how do you explain the hierarchical cause of things?
I mean, with a hierarchy of cause.
Hierarchy, of course, like under an occasionalist view, let's say I'm holding a glass of water. So the glass of water
Like
is
you mean like material, formal, efficient, and final causes?
no. I mean, I mean to say the how things borrow is how in a hierarchical causation, a higher level entity borrows. So a higher level entity sustains a lower level entity in virtue of the lower level entity
You can just use a grounding
borrowing its
relation. You
causal
don't use
power
a
from.
causal. Yeah, you can just use a grounding relation to explain why it holds a property, but it doesn't explain like why the entity exists. Or maybe like a supervenience relation. So neither of those require causal explanations as to why they exist.
So you think an entity comes into existence by itself. So
No, not by itself. It just exists. There doesn't need to be an explanation for existence because it just necessarily exists. The same way that God doesn't need an explanation for existence because he necessarily exists.
but under the views of necessity, let's say temporal necessity, we I think that's temporarily necessary cannot come into existence at one point of time, or it can never cease to exist at another point of time. That's
Yeah,
like
they never.
platonic
Nothing
forms.
fails or ceases to exist between 2 points of time. So at T1, all the same entities exist at T1 as in T2. They're just different. There's different properties being instantiated. Being held.
And things, and if all things are necessary, you are aware of the fact that things do have parts. They are composite
Yeah,
objects.
that's fine.
So
Yeah.
how can a composite object be necessary?
How can a composite object be necessary?
Yes, you did.
Under what theory of composition? Like, so if you're holding a mereological essentialist theory, like you're holding a reverse mereological essentialist theory, I would hold that like composite objects would be conceptually prior to their parts. But assuming we're not holding that, you can still hold that composite objects exist. You would just hold that the abstract object. You would just say that the abstract object that encodes all the properties of that composite object exists, and then it's just made concrete when the requisite parts come together. Now it's just not a concrete. Now it's just a concrete object.
See.
But even then, like, yeah, you can have composite objects. You would just explain it through concrete instantiation.
So, according to you, what a contingent thing is, according to your definition?
Something that could have failed to exist.
So, are you familiar with indeterministic causation? That a thing exists, but it couldn't have existed.
Well, my theory is fine with indeterminism. You can have distinct events occur. It's just that nothing could have failed to exist. It's not like there's a causal explanation as to why they exist. So it's not going to be a determinism question. That seems kind of new. Now, obviously, it's indeterministically true whether or not I have a hand. For example, my hand could get chopped off, but that would just mean that I now exist and I don't hold the property of having a hand. Doesn't mean I stop existing. Doesn't mean my hand stops existing either.
Don't you think that would contradict with the idea of necessity, that it could have existed differently, like in one possible world?
Well, yeah, it could have different properties, but it could have failed to exist. Your argument was whether or not it could have failed to exist, because you were talking about a causal argument. Now, if you want to go give a grounding argument, grounding contingency argument, we can go that too. We can go that route. I also have an explanation. I can give you an explanation for why things are the way things have the properties that they do have. It's a lot easier to do that. Just ground them in essential and autonomous facts.
Do you think an infinite regress is possible?
Not my argument's agnostic to that.
So you don't have compelling
I don't have an
evidence.
opinion. Yeah, I have no opinion about infinite regresses. It's not really relevant.
See. But the thing is, so
Are
everything
you
is,
just trying like any hole here? Like, is there gonna any particular method? Like,
no.
so you can't find anything.
So you disagree with the conception of efficient causality, that right?
At least in terms of efficient causality, as in regards to like things coming to existence, right?
What makes
But like, if you're saying there is an efficient cause as to why things have certain properties. Actually, yeah, I don't even know if I would say like that would be the case. I just think their grounding explanations are sufficient as to why things have properties. Maybe if the explanations are like on the same level explanation, like a physical event explains another physical event having some set of properties. That could be quote unquote efficient cause, but it's definitely not like anything comes into existence or leads to existence in that view.
So do you hold to a unionist or separationist view on grounding?
Are you just looking at the SCV on it now?
No, I'm just asking. Are you a unionist
I think it's just some type of dependency relation. I would really say it's like the because of a relation. Just think of it like that. It's like the predominant view, I think, in the literature. And then questions about like whether or not they're unionist or separationist is kind of like questions about realism or anti-realism, which is not really relevant to this conversation.
Okay. So if you think that
Probably like a separationist.
everything exists necessarily, then how do you define that? How do you differentiate entities in terms of causal power? So something that's necessary must
You would differentiate
something
them
that's
based
necessary
on
by
the role
definition
they
must have
play.
maximal causal
Are
power.
you differentiating them in terms of their grounding, or in terms of their concrete existence, or differentiate them in terms of their abstract existence?
No, first answer me. So
Are
something
their
that's
concrete existence? You just differentiate them the role they play in terms of the grounding explanation. Like H2O grounds the entity water or something like that. Like it grounds the fact that something's water. Or I don't know, Beijing grounds the fact that there's the capital of China or whatever. Right? Like that something's the capital of China. Like in this scenario it's like pretty simple. Like, yeah, you just differentiate them. Like, okay, why is Beijing ground the fact that there's something that's the capital of China? Well, because Beijing is the capital of China. If you're talking about abstractly, well, it'd just be based on the real definitions. Like, it'd just be what's identical with our conception of the thing.
Beijing and the capital of China are identical. I mean, they're the same thing.
Not necessarily. China
So,
could change its capital.
so necessarily. So, are you a
I
necessitarian?
think Beijing grounds the capital of China.
So, are you a
Yeah,
necessitarian? The view that
Beijing City is like the one nice city in like China
Where's
though.
it?
Probably one.
so,
It's probably one.
so do you hold to the view that there exists only one possible world?
No, there are gonna be multiple possible worlds.
So, if there exist multiple possible worlds, then by definition, those possible worlds are contingent. Do you agree with that?
No. No.
So you hold to the view that every possible world necessarily exists. Hello?
That'd be trivial. If you're quantifying over all the possible worlds, they would all necessarily exist, yeah.
So
Does you mean like are you thinking that when I say every possible world necessarily exists, you're saying I think every possible world's actual?
no, I asked if every possible world necessarily exists. So you think those possible worlds are possible and necessary at the same time.
No, what I mean by necessarily exists, I just mean like it wouldn't make sense to say they could have failed to exist because when I talk about possible world, I'm just saying the things of the world, like the like actual entities that are the facts about the world are possible. It's like but the world still exists, right? It's like it would be kind of like saying like what color what color is a high pitch, it's like a category error. Say that a possible world is possible.
See,
So synesthesia.
That's
so,
fair.
So how do you make a distinction between entities in terms of their causal power? Because something that necessarily
I Gary answered you. There's not going to be differentiated on their causal power. They're going to be differentiated on their role in grounding and supervenience explanations.
Something that's logically necessary can create or instantiate all logical possibilities. Therefore, they must have maximal causal power.
I'm just saying like this. I'm just saying, given our modal logic, everything exists necessarily. This is like a fact of modal logic. That's why I bring up the Barcan's formula earlier, or the Barcan formula.
So, can you explain what the Barcan formula is?
So the Barcan formula can be more commonly stipulated as actually I'll just read it out. How about that?
See. So,
there are ways of not accepting it, by the way, but basically the Barcan formula states the principles between how quantifiers relate between modalities. So typically in modal logic, existential quantifier corresponds to possibility, universal quantifier corresponds to necessity, and then they also state the relationships between domains of possible worlds. So if every x is necessarily f, then it's necessary that every x is f. And then we have the equivalent, I guess the corollary. If it is possible that there exists an x that is f, then there exists an f that is possible. If it is possible that there exists an x that is f, then there exists an x that is possibly f. And in this view, there's not going to be really any worlds, like any entities added between worlds. And then you can also give the converse of that, which would show that nothing is subtracted between worlds. And it seems like if both these formulas are true, and both these formulas are derived from our like most common, simple, intuitive understanding of modal logic, right? Then no entities are added or subtracted, so all entities are conserved. If all entities are conserved, then all entities are necessary.
So you'd say it's an abstract object like numbers, platonic forms, and a material object such as a table or a human being. Both are necessary.
Well, I don't know if I think all objects are necessary. I don't think it's necessary that they're material.
No, my problem was
it's not necessary that I'm material. I could exist as an abstract object.
you could have existed in an abstract object, but a necessary thing. So if we look at the conception of a necessary existence, logically necessary existence, it couldn't have been different. Like say
No,
a contingent thing by definition is something
no.
that which in in the actual world it is something, but in another possible world it could have been a different thing. Like say a human in the actual world is 6 feet tall, but in another possible world
Yeah,
he
you
could have been
earlier
taller
defined a
or shorter.
contingent thing as something that could fail to exist. Are you just saying now a contingent thing is something that could have different properties? But then that wouldn't. Then your efficient cause argument would have gone through because your efficient cause argument relied on things coming into existence, not whether or not they had different properties. So now it needs to be changed to a grounding argument. Which, if you want to give a grounding argument, that's separate. But you can at least admit that your argument can't work in terms of efficient cause.
This guy got killed.
So do you agree
Yeah,
with
man,
that?
I don't think you got your elo.
Yeah, bro. I could have called games to you. I could have gave you just the elo. Just gave you like a little bit as a treat. Gave you like 1 point as a treat.
I just wanted to have a mutual, a cordial talk with you. So, do you,
Why did you seek me out in particular? Did somebody tell you to seek me out?
no, you seem like a pretty nice and interesting person.
Yeah, but then how do you know me? That's my question.
Um, I've
There's a
heard of,
fucking elo bounty on your head.
I've heard,
I know there's an elo
I've heard,
bounty. There's all these. It's probably the people
I
from
first saw,
KG because I haven't like.
I first saw you in the RENSS server, I think.
Well, that's probably not a good thing to say, but it's all good.
Hello?
That it was
Big
an.
fan of Ariana.
Arianas.